Hello, and welcome to the April 1st edition of the HAI at Work webinar. Dan Sweet is off this week, enjoying some well-deserved annual preventive maintenance. I'm Gina Kvitkovich, the editor of Rotor Magazine, and I'll be your host for today's webcast. Today, we feature a conversation between two leaders in our industry, HAI President and CEO James Viola, and Romain Trapp, President, Airbus Helicopters, Inc., and head of its North American region. During our webinar, we will be taking your questions for Jim and Romain. To submit a question, please use the question module in the control panel on the side of your screen. Because of schedule constraints, we'll be stopping our webcast promptly at 5 p.m. So I apologize in advance if we don't get to all the questions. This webinar is being recorded. If you missed some of it, visit rotor.org/webinar to catch up on this or any of our webinars. We'll also send a link via a later email. It just generally takes about 24 hours for the video to be posted. Feel free to share that link with any of your colleagues. And with that, I'd like to ask Jim Viola to come on camera and introduce the webinar. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks for picking up the slack for Dan. And hello, everyone, and welcome to another HAI at Work webinar. We took a break from the series of webinars that we kicked up early after the pandemic last week so that we can hold our MTBs, or otherwise known as the Manufacturer's Technical Briefings, basically a week of virtual manufacturer briefings that are usually held during our annual HAI Heli Expo show. When we canceled our 2021 event, we knew our community could not wait a whole year or even afford to go without a whole year without this kind of professional development. So we developed a plan to present it virtually. If you were one of the nearly 1,400 attendees last week, I hope you found our program of technical and product information from the OEMs information and helpful. I especially want to thank our sponsors, Dart Aerospace, Concorde Aircraft Batteries, and Concepts NERC, and of course, all of the participating manufacturers for their support of our industry. In future webinars, we will continue to bring you more content that was originally scheduled for New Orleans, including webinars that will highlight our Salute to Excellent honorees and the HAI Safety Symposium. In today's webinar, we're going to hear even more from an OEM. Our guest today is Romain Trapp of Airbus Helicopters. Romain is president of Airbus Helicopters, where he oversees Airbus operations in the US and Canada helicopter market. He has been with Airbus for more than 20 years, including the last 13 in North America for Airbus Helicopters. So go ahead and bring your camera up, Romain. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. And actually, so we are April 1st. So we should have been last week all together in New Orleans, but of course it was not possible for obvious reasons. But I'm really looking forward actually next year in Dallas to be all together and celebrate Heli Expo. And I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting time because everybody is looking forward actually to get together again.
Yes, it's certainly, you know, while Zoom and all the virtual stuff we've done absolutely doesn't replace the in-person gatherings and being able to meet, greet, and socialize, but we're trying to do the next best thing, and I really appreciate you coming on here today. And certainly, you know, try to figure out how you would lead off to this conversation, and it's got to be the pandemic. I mean, we've gone a whole year now with the pandemic, and so we know that there's been some many minuses, but also, you know, just different types of effect. So let's jump into, you know, how has the pandemic impacted your business? You know, what, you know, there's things you hear now about strategy of return to business. What's that going to look like, or what, you know, if that will ever look like it did before. So what are your thoughts about, you know, how you've been hit and where we're going with the pandemic?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jim. And so maybe let me start with how have we been hit? I would say, like all operators, actually, we have seen a very sharp decrease of flying hours in April and May last year. And then step by step, it's starting to, I would say, come back to, in average, a normal level. And why is that? It's simply because, and all of the people actually on the call today know that 75% of the helicopters which are flying today are flying to save lives, to protect people, and to, I would say, maintain the critical infrastructure which are necessary for all our countries. And due to that, we had to go back to normal. So overall, what we had seen in 2020, actually, in terms of activity, the first, let me say, flying hours, we saw overall from all our operators a decrease by about 10% of flying hours in average in 2020 compared to 2019. And of course, there is a big difference between some industries which have been hit extremely hard, like the tour operation, and some which went back to, I would say, normal or even above normal. And this is the case for law enforcement, at the end of the year also for emergency medical services and so on. So actually, when you look at that, 75% of the helicopter flying for critical missions, what did it mean for us, Airbus Helicopters? It means that we had to remain 100% operational, simply because the helicopter, again, save lives every day and protect communities. So right away, actually in April last year, we went all in terms of safety measures to ensure that, yes, all our employees could continue doing what they need in order to keep the helicopter flying for operators. So the second part of your question was actually, and what is in front of us? What is the back to normal? So I would say, actually back to what I just said, yes, we have adapted our way of working, but 80% of our employees have been actually in our plant working every day, because you don't maintain a helicopter, you don't manufacture a part, assemble a helicopter from home. So 80% of our employees have been doing that, and I'm very, very proud of our team, our dedication and engagement there. Because again, this is thanks to the great team we have at Airbus, which we have been able to remain 100% operational to support all our operators. Now, moving one step further, talk about, is it business as usual? Are we going to go back once COVID is over into business as usual? And I would say no, because actually this pandemic has shown that more and more things are done virtually. And now what we plan to do at Airbus is to move from an old normal to a new normal. And a new normal where actually the 20% of our people who could work remotely, virtually, would be able still with some level to be able to do so. But at the same time, here I'm a bit cautious. So we are going to offer actually in the coming weeks the ability, as soon as we can lift some of our safety measures, the ability of our employees, again, the 20% who could do that, to work 1 or 2 days from home moving forward. But it's not going to be 100%. And why? Because what we are seeing as well, and this is the case in many other industries, in many other companies, is when people work from home, yes, they are very efficient. But what we are starting to lack is the innovation, the problem solving. Because usually innovation and problem solving comes when people see each other physically and interact, and not necessarily interact in a setup meeting, because you could do a meeting through Zoom, you could do a meeting through Jimmy, Teams, and so on, but simply interacting on the corridor and basically able to tease each other and say, now I have an idea, or I have a solution for that. So this is where we are going at Airbus, and we are going to implement that actually in the coming weeks, in the coming months, as soon as some of the safety measures, most of the safety measures which are in place today will be step by step lifted. And hopefully you all see the situation in the US, and where more and more vaccines are available, and we're looking forward to see the same thing in Canada. We're looking forward to see the same thing in Europe and all over the world, which will bring us basically, Jim, into a new normal.
No, that was a really good explanation there. I mean, so just to recap, what I heard there was that you had some really high numbers of continuous operations despite the pandemic because of the unique characteristics of helicopters and their ability to do all the things that society needs us to do all the time, not just during good times, but good times, bad times, the infrastructure, the saving people's lives, the policing of society. So that's great. And then what I also heard you say, then you're taking the best of both worlds, what you've learned from being able to let people do virtual work, where does it best work? And as you move forward, as we all move forward into the future, we've learned something from that as well. So yeah, the business is not going to be just go back to what it was, but be better because of some of the things that we learned that we can incorporate, but not replace.
And actually, I believe that we as a society, more and more are going to do that. I don't believe the society will go to the old normal in everything we do. Meaning, right now you do more and more, you're shopping virtually and things like that. And I believe at the end of the day, there will be a mix of both, and you are going to see changes everywhere in the way simply we live. And if you are changes in the way you live, you have also changes in the way you work.
Yeah, so that kind of leads into what I was thinking about for a second question, which is the workforce development. You know, and you're kind of describing that the workforce or the working of the future may be different. Have you seen, you know, if you're operating at such high numbers, have you brought on a lot of new employees, and how has that impacted your company?
So for the most part, and that's a great point, for the most part, we have not brought a lot of new employees, and we are hiring actually right now. Just in North America, we have about 50, just for Airbus Helicopter, we have about 50 open positions right now. So we are hiring because we see the market coming back. And that's going to be a challenge, because I take, again, the example of the 20% of our employees who could work from home. Yeah, you are efficient because you know the people, you know the company, you know the process and procedures. When you are a newcomer, that's very difficult because you don't know anybody here. And also one of the reasons why I think it's important for whoever starts in a new company actually to spend some time, part-time, inside an environment where you meet people and you see people. Talking actually about workforce development, of course, we have moved many of our, I would say, training for our own employees from a physical training, usually in a meeting room, to a virtual one. And we have invested actually a lot of money there. And I think this will continue, definitely. And maybe if I move to if you let me, because workforce development is actually workforce of your current employees, but it's also workforce of the employees of the future, the people you are going to bring in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years from now. And I think there, Jim, we as an industry have definitely been challenged because what we as an industry, and and we at Airbus, we have spent a lot of time on is go and try actually to promote our industry to middle school, to high school, because this is where is the workforce of the future. And of course, the pandemic has been challenging because it's very difficult to bring high school and middle school kids right now into our various facilities. Well, what we were used to do actually at Airbus, and we still continue doing it, is we have launched a program which was Airbus Goes to School, and where actually employees go to the various schools, usually when they are their kids, let's be clear. We bring them a package, we give them and equip them with a package, and they talk about aerospace. They are not there to talk about Airbus, they are here to talk about aerospace. And this is a great way, actually, to bring some people, some young people into aviation. And I think this is going to be actually one of our biggest challenges. Some of the last year, and it's going to be a year and a half, we have maybe, into bracket, lost a little bit of time altogether as an industry, because we have not been able to do that as much as we were used to do. And the big question is, how do we catch up all together as an industry? Because otherwise our future is at stake.
Yes, yeah, no, the next generation and the young people of today, like I said, that gap that they've had to live through this pandemic, and they're more social creatures than I think we are at our age, that they probably have a lot of missing part. And then once they're back together, and then we have to make sure that they're motivated and excited about physics and math and all the things that add safety to the work that we do. So yeah, definitely, those would be some creative people that we'll have to hire on our workforce to help us solve those problems.
Yep.
So now we're working out a little farther. My next question would be, as a global OEM, and I mean, everything is almost global these days, what regulatory challenges do you feel you face that are different in multiple jurisdictions, or are there most common themes around the world that Airbus has to deal with?
So I would say at the end of the day, the regulatory environment is here for reasons, which is to ensure safety. And I would say this is a common theme, which you find everywhere in the world, meaning you find that at FAA, at EASA, at Transport Canada, and so on. So everywhere in the world, you find that. What we have seen actually with, and this is maybe more conjectural, what we have seen with the COVID environment is, of course, many people working for the FAA or EASA and so on have been working from home. And while in the beginning, this may have been perceived as a challenge, actually, I take this opportunity really to applaud, especially FAA, EASA, Transport Canada, because they have been able to really to step up, find creative ways to be not to delay what they are doing every day for the operators, what they are doing every day for us and as an OEM, which is allowing us to certify helicopters or do some STCs. I would say moving forward, and we have seen that more and more the last year, and I'm actually looking forward to see that more in the future, is more and more bilateral agreement between, for instance, FAA and EASA. There are some, but reinforcing this bilateral agreement where one authority will rely on the other more and more, because at the end of the day, it simplifies, especially for an OEM, the certification process. And so we have seen that happening because, of course, when people cannot travel, it creates a lot of challenges, and you want to be able to rely on the other authority. But I think this is where we still need to see actually the authority moving forward in many aspects for what they do for helicopters.
Yes, I agree that bilateral agreements will really help industry be able to just be more efficient versus having to do almost a dual certification and then having differences with that certification as well. So the more, I certainly will do our best as HAI to reach out to some of those regulators to try to help with as many bilateral agreements as possible.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
And actually, you have really a key role to play here, because actually we are very complementary. We as OEM need, of course, to pass this message, but this message needs to come from the helicopter operator, and more we see helicopter operator who become more and more international, having operations here and there, and so this is a common interest for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And it does, as you say, it goes from the aircraft to the actual missions, and nowadays trying to operate in more than one country and then having to remember what you have to do in what country. So the more we can harmonize, the better. And again, like I said, HI is going to take that challenge on. So we'll try to help. So you did mention safety. So what else can you tell me about how your company is approaching safety or the goal of reducing accidents?
Yeah. So safety is, of course, our top priority, and it's really part of our DNA. And it's part of the DNA, I would say, from the design of the helicopter to the production of the helicopter to the maintenance of the helicopter, and after that, to the training and support of the helicopters. So maybe I'm going to take that in different steps. So first, safety. You take a helicopter. It's about the equipment. It's about how the helicopter fly and what are the equipment inside the helicopter which help improving safety. When you look at what we have been doing over the last few years, we have been introducing a completely new avionics suite, which is called Avionics. We started doing that with our H175, with that with the H160, H145, H135, which actually also bring a lot of commonalities because more and more we have a family concept. But all of that, at the end of the day, is to be able to reduce the pilot workload, which at the end of the day makes the flying more efficient and the flying easier to manage. We have installed as well on most of our helicopters, actually, a cockpit voice and video recorder, which is becoming now a standard, and it is a standard for Airbus, because when something happens or simply during training, actually having a visual help also improving the training and what especially the pilots do and can do better. Now, if I continue on the equipment side, I would say we have been also providing on the market retrofit solution with our crash-resistant fuel system. And we've really encouraged all our operators who are flying our older model, like the 350 B3 or the 130 B4, to install this crash-resistant fuel system, which were not installed at the time the helicopter was delivered, which for some of them was a long time ago. And I think this is a way where all together we are going to make actually our helicopters safer and safer. But this is just a piece, because you have the equipment piece, Jim, but you have, I would say, the training piece, which is absolutely key to ensure the highest level of safety for the helicopter. So in terms of training piece, so training starts with simulators, ability to I would say, put yourself in situation which you don't want to put yourself in a real helicopter, but which will teach you and help you actually getting the right reflex in case something happens. For instance, when you lose visual reference, or it's called IMC,
right?
It's difficult to pronounce. This is a situation all pilots are used to. You don't want to be in this situation, but you train for that. Well, in order to be good at it, you need to train and retrain and retrain. And actually, we are going more and more on our side to put that as in the basic of our training package when a pilot leave Airbus, train with Airbus, and leave with Airbus with his training certificate. So I think this is one thing which is important. Actually, we had the opportunity myself to fly last week with our brand new state-of-the-art H145 Simulator, which is about to be certified by the FAA, which is a simulator in partnership with our partners Helisim in Grand Prairie. And when I flew it last week, actually, well, of the record, I asked them to do some things. I'm not a pilot, so I asked them to do things which a pilot may never ask. And I say, well, what if this happens? And it's great to be able to do that in a simulator. Of course, I did crazy things which didn't end well, but in a simulator, it's okay. Well, and if I move now, I would say to my my other point, it's and actually it has really helped. The COVID situation has really created a big push there. It's about providing some tips, providing trainings to the aviation community in order to make to increase the level of safety. Many of you on the call there know Bruce Webb. Bruce Webb is our director of education. Bruce, before COVID, was used to do speeches in front of 20 to 400 people. Great, but you touch 20 to 400 people. When COVID started, actually, Bruce was not able to do so. So what did he do? Is actually he has recorded a certain number of videos, and there is a video posted every 2 weeks now, and each time a video of Bruce is posted, we have more than 20,000 views. And I think this is for me very important because the outreach is bigger, and each time it's about tips of what to do and what not to do when you fly. When you fly, or typically when you maintain a helicopter, because some of the tips actually are not only about flying. It's also about checking the helicopters and things like that. So at the end of the day, I think this virtual, this COVID situation has brought us into a new normal, to make reference to what we discussed before, which also will help us and will help the industry becoming safer and safer.
Yeah, well, that was absolutely outstanding, Romain, as you talked about. I think if I was grading that answer to that question, you got 100% plus. And I really appreciate all the work that Bruce does as well, for the right reasons. And, you know, I think you touched on it, the training, the pilot competency, and the making sure that even with the automation that's there to help him, we still got to keep the pilot proficient to be able to fly the aircraft and be able to know when to execute precautionary landings and to be that decision maker. So still lots of work to be done in that area, but definitely starting with making a great aircraft is part of that.
Yeah.
So with that,
and actually, Jim, just if I may piggyback on what you said, and it's not only about the pilots, because what we have put in place as well, and I know many operators actually do it, is they are training non-pilot, which are flying in the aircraft, a kind of a course actually for emergency landing in case something happened with the pilot. Meaning, we have seen, and unfortunately, it's reality. We have seen sometimes some pilots having a heart attack. Yeah, you have a heart attack and you are flying. It's great, actually, that someone in the back of the aircraft can jump and just learn how to land safely. And we see more and more of our operators, and we provide this course, we at Airbus, in order to actually provide the minimum skills to be able to land safely a helicopter in case the pilot is incapacitated. I let you say it.
I got it. Incapacitated.
And incapacitated. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
So just as we got, we've got over 100 people on here today. Where are most of Bruce's videos posted?
So actually, most of Bruce's web video are posted on YouTube. So it does Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and actually. It's amazing what Bruce has done. He has created his own recording studio within our facilities with camera, screen, and actually today I am in the studio of Bruce. Behind me, it's actually a green wall where you can put pictures, and this is what Bruce is doing in order to create some animation. Because at the end of the day, the challenge with the virtual is you need to make it lively. And in order to make it lively, you need to actually use technologies. Otherwise, it's simply becoming boring.
So just one more thread on the training of the pilots with the automation coming on board. And maybe Bruce is working on that in education. But is there, the FAA and EASA and all the regulators out there set a minimum standard for training? Do you step forward and recommend additional training, or every other month versus every 6 months, or have you looked at any of that?
So here I think we need to rely on the authorities. Clearly they know what they are doing. We are here to support them. We need to rely on the authorities. What you see as well is when there are accidents, there are recommendations. For instance, NTSB on some of the recent accidents which happened, unfortunately, in the US. And I think all of that, when you're going to put that together, will lead, yes, to maybe more training requirements. And yes, we completely embrace that, because at the end of the day, we need all together to reduce the number of accidents. You look at the last 20 years, the number of accidents by helicopter has significantly reduced, both worldwide and in North America, but there are still too many. At the end of the day, the goal is always 0 accident.
All right. No, I appreciate that. I think that was a very good discussion. So that kind of was the safety aspect. Now the next one is, with legislation. And I know we've got some here in the States. We've got some stuff in New York. We got some stuff in California and also out in Hawaii. They're trying to solve the noise issues. Is your company doing anything to address noise issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to be, of course, a responsible neighbor in the sky. I would say we start from a pretty good position, we at Airbus, because most of our helicopters are equipped with a fenestron. And a fenestron is actually reducing by 20% the sound level compared to a traditional helicopter. And for instance, if I take another example, today you have the strictest measure of a strictest requirement in terms of sound or noise in the Grand Canyon. And there are very few helicopters which are allowed to fly in the Grand Canyon. And one of them is actually the H130 from Airbus, and mainly because it has a fenestron. But we are working, so we have implemented the fenestron, but I would say the fenestron, it's what we have, but we are continuing to work in order to reduce the sound level for helicopters. I take the example of the H175. For the H175, which actually we are proposing right now to the police of New York, the H175 is equipped with a variable rotor speed in order actually to reduce the RPM and then the sound footprint when the helicopter fly over cities. What we have introduced as well is a brand new design for the blades, and which is called actually a Blue Edge blade. So instead of being straight, the blades are slightly tilted at the end. And what we have seen, and we have done a lot of tests, this helps also reducing the sound level or the noise level of the helicopters. And that's why we are introducing actually this brand new technology into the H160, which is going to be delivered for the first time in the coming months. And we are learning each and every time. And of course, the goal is once something works on one helicopter to see what we can do in order to reuse it on others.
Very good. So yeah, helicopters are used for so many different missions, and like you talked about there, you're working on what you can help out in the New York police with, and others. We're also moving to another entrant, into the intermodal journey. As somebody goes from their home to wherever, and so a lot of people are starting to talk about the advanced air mobility now. Are you doing work in this area?
Yeah. So of course we do, and actually. We started there several years ago, and if I'm not mistaken, we were the first, one of the first, to bring a technology demonstrator on the market several years ago. And this was actually a prototype which we developed in California, which was called the HANAR, which was a one-seat eVTOL. And for us, the idea really is to learn from it. So it was really a technology demonstrator. We have learned a lot about what it can do and what it cannot do, which led us actually to develop another technology demonstrator, which is currently flying in Germany, which is called City Airbus. So this time it's 4 seats. And it's about, again, learning the technology, thinking out of the box, bringing new innovation into it. It's not going to be City Airbus, which we will fly, which we'll see flying in the coming years. But we as an industry, we have to learn, and hopefully at some point we are all going to find a game-changing technology, which I don't see today, by the way. So really, I'm looking forward on our side. Us, we are going to continue investing, and we have invested already a lot of money into it. We will continue doing so. And looking forward actually to see all these projects also popping up everywhere, because at the end of the day, what we all want as an industry is potentially to see some, again, game-changing technology, which will bring us one step further. Having said all of that, I believe we are still a long way to go for you and I to jump into our car and then be flying, because the technology is not there yet, and the regulatory environment has even not been defined, and for good reasons. Because at the end of the day, that's why I believe we still have a long way to go to be able to do so, because what we all want is we do so in a safety manner, meaning with the highest level of safety, because this is what our industry is all about. And it's great to have technology demonstrator, but there is a huge gap between flying when there is nobody around you and flying with an environment where you have other vehicles around you or simply people behind you.
No, that was very good. So let me try to sum that up for some of our members and tell me how I did. So you saw that a lot of the stuff is coming. The game-changing technology is still yet to be discovered, and also earlier today you talked about how 80% of the stuff that we do with helicopters continued. So any of these vehicles, would be into the future would be complementary to rotary aircraft, not a replacement, and certainly not anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see at all, I would say, some of these vehicles, when they come, to replace helicopters. I think all of that is complementary. Meaning, when you and I are going to see a hoist operation or rescue operation with an eVTOL or flying UAM or flying cars, I think we will see plenty of other things in our industry and in our daily life, which will be completely different. So I think there we are, I don't know how many decades away from it, but yes, we still have a long way to go.
Well, so at least we still have time for that workforce development to get people interested and make sure that they know that as helicopter operators, these vehicles are going to operate more, unless you know more, in the same environment that helicopters, under 3,000 feet, less than 250 knots, probably not going to go long distances. So we should, my operators should be the perfect people to help this transition when the technology is there.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So just to last question I had, and then we'll go to see what other questions are out there. What is in store for Airbus in 2021 or running into 2022? Is there going to be something special I get to see at Heli Expo in Dallas?
Well, I would say 2021 is going to be a very exciting year for Airbus, and especially Airbus in North America, because 2021 is a year where we are going to have the entry into service of our brand new helicopter, which is a H160. And the first customer for the H160 is actually a US customer. So in the coming months, you are going to see a brand new helicopter flying in the US. And actually the second customer is in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's going to be a very exciting actually for us at Airbus, and I believe very exciting for the industry. Another thing which is coming, which is our 5-bladed H145 with increased performance and actually an increased comfort. The first helicopter which will be delivered in the US on the commercial side will actually be in a few weeks from now. So we are very excited about it. What you are going to see as well is on our side, on the military side for the US, we are going to transition delivering the UH-72 from the UH-72A to the US Army to the UH-72 Bravo. And this will happen as well in the second part of this year. So pretty exciting things. And I would say but also exciting things for us at Airbus. We are going to do the grand opening in June with our partner Helisim of a brand new state-of-the-art training center in Grand Prairie, which has been built and which is managed by Helisim. And it's pretty exciting, meaning we are just waiting. Actually, I said June, but it's May. It's beginning of May. With a brand new state-of-the-art training center. And actually, at the same time, the plan is to officially do the launch of our H145 level D simulator, which I tried last week, meaning certification is in process, and that's going to be a key addition to the simulator, which we have already in Grand Prairie, Texas. So wow. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
We were not going to come with a brand new, another brand new helicopters at the next HAI, but I think just what I have highlighted is pretty good stuff.
No, absolutely. And not only is it good stuff, it's right around the corner. It's not, out. So you've been keeping busy during this pandemic. As you said, you kept your workforce, I think you said 100%. So yeah. Great. So we had a couple of questions. One came in from Nathan Keach, asked, where do you see operations in Columbus, Mississippi headed? Do you see a future need to hire more aviation maintenance technicians?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I was highlighting that we have several dozens of positions today open at Airbus Helicopter. And this is in our various facilities in North America. It's Columbus, Mississippi. It's Grand Prairie, Texas. It's Fort Erie, Ontario. So yes, we are hiring. What we have been doing actually, and we have slightly changed our business model in terms of operations. We are more and more specializing our facility in Grand Prairie, Texas, to the support and services activities. And we have specialized our Columbus facility in Mississippi into assembly, final assembly, and customization of helicopters. So Columbus is our center of excellence for helicopter assembly and customization. And actually, when you go to Columbus, and I encourage some of you there to come and visit us, it's pretty impressive facility, and I'm very proud of what the team is doing there.
Great, now that's all good news. So the next question we got was from Ken Swartz of the Vertical Flight Society. Asked, what kinds of activities have been taking place at Airbus Helicopters Canada this past year?
So Airbus Helicopter Canada, so in Fort Erie, Ontario. So actually, Fort Erie, Ontario has three main types of activities. I would say you have the manufacturing of composite parts, so sole source manufacturing of composite parts, which are actually installed on all helicopters, all civil helicopters of Airbus, which are flying worldwide. So this, as you could imagine, they have stayed very busy in terms of production. We also, from Fort Erie, Ontario, support all our operators there with our warehouse and with our, I would say, repair shop, especially in terms of dynamic component repair and overhaul. And last, but not the least, it's about customization of helicopters and final assembly of helicopters. And we had some pretty exciting deliveries over the last few months to Calgary Police, for instance. We are about to deliver, actually, going to be very exciting, the first Aston Martin edition for ACH 130. And the first customer, actually, for the Aston Martin edition happened to be a Canadian customer. So pretty exciting things as well for our Canadian operation.
All right. So good deal on that as well. And so we got a long question here from Mark Ewer of the Aviation International News. So I'll read it to you and decide if it's an answer right here. It's worldwide. It says Airbus Helicopters saw a jump in service revenues in 2020 as those revenues became a large share of overall revenues. Was this also the case for Airbus Helicopters Incorporated? If so, could you quantify it? And also tell us what changes you are making to the Grand Prairie campus to provide for this.
Do you mind repeating the question, Jim?
Okay.
I think there were several questions there, so just to be...
says worldwide, Airbus Helicopters saw a jump in service revenues for 2020 as those revenues became a large share of overall revenues.
Yeah.
Was this also the case for Airbus Helicopters Incorporated? If so, could you quantify it and also tell us what changes you are making to the Grand Prairie campus to provide for this? I know you talked a lot of stuff.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And so, so I would say, just to make sure, well, actually, there are two ways to answer the question more. The first one is the helicopter piece inside the global Airbus business. Global Airbus business, it's fixed wing airplane, large airplane, it's defense and space, and it's helicopters. So, and as you saw, our fixed wing business has been hit pretty hard by COVID, and in that regard, and this is what I said before, the helicopter has been extremely resilient to this downturn, which we saw in the aviation overall. And when you look at the percentage of activity, yes, today the helicopter portion within Airbus has increased this year, 2020, compared to last year. Now, what we have seen as well, I guess this is also the second part of the question, which is we have seen an increase of proportionally, an increase of our support activities versus sale of new helicopters. So in the past, we were used to be 50-50 or 45 support, 55 sale of new helicopters. What we have seen, and this is the case worldwide, but also in North America, especially in 2020, about 55% of our turnover has been through support and services activities, which also mean, and to answer the last part, which is what are the changes we are making in Grand Prairie, because we see the resilience of the business model. We are investing more and more into means to better support our customer, to be more efficient, to improve the turnaround time. And for instance, one of the exciting things which we are going to have in 2021 is we're going to have the entry into service of our brand new multi-purpose dynamic component test bench, which will be installed in Grand Prairie, which is about a $10 million investment, and which is under construction. And I'm looking forward actually to do also the ribbon cutting on this one in the coming months. So yes, we are clearly investing, and I could go on and on some of the investments which we are making actually to improve our support. But yeah, this is clearly a key priority for us, and we are constantly investing.
So I do have another question here. Hopefully, Mark, if that didn't answer your question, we could probably do an email to get something for you, or maybe sit down and talk with Romain. Tom Allen asked, what additional automation, and I tried to work this into a question earlier, how do pilots keep up their basic piloting skills? And I think that's really, on the operational side, as we try to help, again, help the pilot with the automation. I think industry and the operators need to work with the OEMs to try to figure out the answer to that question. Because the more automated you get, and you talked about the simulators, going in there, how regularly should you go in there and make sure that what are all the different issues? What I'd like to be able to do is go into a simulator and do all the emergencies. I mean, just run through every emergency procedure. And when you come out of that simulator and you're worn out, that's great, because you don't, and then you want to go have the most boring flight ever because you didn't have to do all the things you're ready for. So I don't know if you've got another answer, but again, it was with additional automation, how do pilots keep up their basic piloting skills?
No, and you said it, and let's look actually at airplane. Today, many airplanes fly by themselves. Well, but the pilots are still very skilled. Why are they very skilled? Exactly for what you said, Jim, because they train and train and train again in the simulator in addition of their flying. And I think this is where we should go as an industry, because at the end of the day, automation bring, I would say, tools for reducing the pilot workload. But yes, you need the pilots to be able to handle each and every situation. And this comes with training, and especially in the simulator.
All right. So with that, I think I'm going to ask Gina to come back up, and I'm going to thank you very much, Romain, for joining us today. I think it's been very educational. Hopefully people got a lot out of it. And again, you know, tell your buddies, tell your friends, this will be recorded and get posted. So you want to join us, Gina, or unless there's something else we want to knock out?
There we go, and start my video. There we go. Hi, guys. Okay, great. Thank you so much for both of you for the questions and the insightful questions and the look at what's happening in our industry. I really appreciate, I know our audience appreciated your insights. I think you can both turn your cameras off because now I'm just going to take care of some housekeeping. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, yeah, Gina, just would like to thank very much Jim and you for organizing this this webinar. It's really great, and actually I'm looking forward to be able to see each other in person all together. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, won't that be nice next year? So let me just arrange my windows because they and share my webinars, my slideshow. Just a second. Oh, okay, well, I can just run with it. So anyway, I hope next week that you'll be able to join us again. The HAI at Work webinar will feature a discussion by 4 leaders of international helicopter organizations, including representatives from Chile, Great Britain, and Europe, as well as HAI's Jim Viola. Aviation is one of the technologies that has made our world a smaller and more connected place. And it's become very apparent over the last few years that our industry needs to work together to tackle some of our issues. This webinar will take place at 4 p.m. next Thursday, April 8th, and I hope you'll be able to join us. You'll find we'll be sending out invites through social media, email, and you'll also find it in Rotor Daily. There will be a follow-up questionnaire on today's webinar coming your way. Please let us know what you like about these webinars and if there's any way that we could do better. We'd also like to hear your suggestions on future topics. And the same goes for HAI. Please take a moment to let us know how we're doing. Simply email president@rotor.org with your comments and suggestions about how the association could better help you meet your challenges. And with that, I and all of my colleagues at HAI hope you'll fly safe, stay safe, and come back next week for the next HAI at Work webinar. Thanks for being here today. Good evening.